exception
I'm not killing the filibuster
on that bill. Never,
I've
ever.
been very, very clear.
It appears that Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has learned the completely wrong lesson from the insurrection on the Capitol. And James Clyburn, of all people, is calling him out. So I'll get to that second video in a minute here. But first, here is Joe Manchin on CNN and the lesson that he learned from the Capitol riots.
January 6th changed me, and I was very clear with everybody. I never thought in my life, I never read in history books to where our form of government had been attacked at our seat of government, which is Washington, D.C., at our capital, by our own people. Now, the British did it, but not Americans. So something told me, wait a minute, pause, hit the pause button, something's wrong. You can't have this many people split to where they want to go to war with each other.
Would you be willing to pass the For the People's Act by killing the filibuster? Would you be willing to carve out an exception
I'm not killing the filibuster
on that bill? Never,
I've
ever.
been very, very clear. I think if you read my op-ed, it was very clear.
So Joe Manchin now is against killing the filibuster or even altering it because of what happened at the Capitol riots. Because he saw crazy Republican voters lead an insurrection at the Capitol and see his fellow lawmakers, Republicans, defend that, instead of making him think, hey, this is crazy. We can't be working with these people. He instead thinks, no, you know what? These people are so effing crazy. I think we should work with them. This is the excuse he is using for now being even more conservative, if that was possible, than he was before. Now, James Clyburn, of all people, this is the guy that essentially handed Joe Biden victory last year in the primary against Bernie Sanders. He came out and said this in response to Joe Manchin.
He said that, if I remember your interview, that January 6th changed him. Well, it changed me as well. And I want to remind him of what some of those insurrectionists were saying to those African-American law officers who were out there. One man talking about how many times he was called the N-word. I want to know, how does that man compromise in such a situation? How would he have me compromise in such a situation?
So Clyburn here making the obvious point that why would you be compromising with people who are absolutely disgusting? Now, ultimately, I don't think Joe Manchin I don't think this changed him. I think he's using this as a convenient excuse to continue being even more corporate than he was before. Because right now you have bills like the PRO Act that are being introduced, very, very pro-union, that of course Manchin is against. He doesn't want to see that passed. So instead of actually fighting these bills on the merit and just admitting that he is a corporate hack, he instead is using this as the excuse to be more conservative and vote with his Republican buddies. Now, the way around this is, well, first to primary him, obviously, but that's going to take a few years because he's not up for a bit. But unfortunately, there really isn't all that much you can do. With the Senate split 50-50, you either need Manchin or you need a Republican on board to vote with you. And whether it's Manchin or Sinema, they're going to continue holding up any sort of progress. So I want people to understand here, because there's being a lot of manufactured hate right now being thrown at the left, and some of it is warranted. Right now, progressive lawmakers in the House, especially the Progressive Caucus, which is about 20 members, they have the ability to hold up particular bills, to improve them, because you're not going to get 20 Republicans on board for a Joe Manchin piece of legislation. But they're not using their power. They didn't use their power when it came to the COVID relief bill. You can excuse them and say, hey, to hold up COVID relief would have maybe looked bad on them, and that's why they didn't do it. Okay, whatever. But they could have held up that bill to put the wage increase back into it. They decided not to do that. But now with the infrastructure bill, they have the power to hold it up. There isn't the same urgency with the infrastructure bill as there is with the COVID relief. So they have now the power in the House to hold that up. But even though, yes, you can criticize them for not using their power in the way that they can use it so far, understand the real barrier to progress here are people like Joe Manchin. This is the guy holding up actual progress. Nothing is getting through with 60 votes. So they have to rely on budget reconciliation where they can use it, and they really can't use it for everything or a lot. So they're going to use it as they can. But even then, you still have to rely on Joe Manchin's vote to support that, and you're not getting anything else through with 60 votes. So this is going to be an ongoing issue, and it requires other politicians, popular, powerful politicians like Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, to put pressure on Manchin. You have to make Manchin fold. That's really the only way out of this. Since you need his vote, you have to make him fold. So you have to have this continued onslaught on his character, on him in his state of West Virginia. You need this ongoing onslaught on Joe Manchin to hurt his poll numbers and basically bend him into submission. Now, there still is no guarantee that he would bend into submission, because this is a guy who is not even just serving corporate interests, but he has corporate interests himself. He's I believe, a partial owner of a hotel chain. So we're talking about somebody who is invested in the current way of doing things. Of course, does not want to pay his workers more money, but the only way you could possibly potentially hurt him or make him change is to hurt his poll numbers in his state. But that still, as I said, is not a guarantee. So this is really going to be an ongoing battle. But I just want people to realize that while there is plenty of criticism to go around, a lot of the blame has to be put on Joe Manchin.